Hi there, welcome to our presentation on the work of leadership. What we will do is provide you with a brief YouTube video of our findings, a very quick summary at the end. What we'll actually present to you in the PowerPoint presentation is just the skeleton, really. The narrating that I will actually do personally is more meat on the bones, just to give you a bit of an idea. And there's also a document to actually accompany this if you want to do any further reading. So let's just get on to the next slide for you. So just a brief introduction. This paper talks about how adaptive challenges are systemic problems with no actual quick fix or silver bullet solution. Rather than resolving the issues, we actually must engage our colleagues to ask them to provide the answers for us. From a leader's perspective, this can actually seem a bit counterintuitive and a little bit outside our comfort zone. But this paper goes into 6 key principles about how we can actually kind of engage our team and ensure that ourselves and our colleagues embrace the challenges of adaptive work in these 6 key principles. So the first part of our key principles is get on the balcony. So what do we actually mean by this? Essentially, in our business, we can actually fail to identify when our employees are struggling or work avoidance. Our attention can actually be directly involved in the rapid motion and there's the pressure on us to actually execute this change, which we're trying to facilitate in the first place. We can become swept up in the action or field and lose the ability to actually stand back and reflect from the balcony about the whole global change that's actually going on in the business. As the others to deliver this change for us, by others I mean our employees, and allow observations from this balcony to actually direct and lead this change via our employees. So the second key principle is identify your adaptive challenge. In business, individuals often know how to react to routines, but when there's a change in the routine itself, the response often fails, and we don't really know how to deal with this. If a business cannot adapt to the new challenge, we are really likely to fail. So therefore, it's crucial for businesses to identify if an adaptive or technical change is needed to resolve an issue. This requires involvement of all employees at all levels throughout the organisation and leaders to ask tough questions and challenge the norm, rather than simply providing the solution to them ourselves. And this brings me back to the point which we made in our introduction, whereas instinctively you want to be involved in the change and actually kind of get involved yourself, and it can seem quite counterintuitive to let people drive that change for you and manage them. So what we actually need to do is take a step back and look at the bigger picture from getting on the balcony, so to speak. Regulate distress is our third key principle. Change causes stress as it forces people to move outside their comfort zone. This is actually a positive, as without feeling some sort of pressure, nobody would do nothing or would evolve or adapt or anything, and that's why change is needed in the first place. However, there is also a danger that people may feel overwhelmed and then stop moving forward completely. You become emotionally or rationally flooded, going back to our workshops. So as a leader, it's important to find the balance between the two. The best way to describe what we're trying to illustrate in this slide is if you imagine a pressure cooker. If the pressure exceeds the cooker's capacity, it may blow up. Without the heat in the first place, nothing would ever cook. So it's really important that we actually find this balance, and we need to be able to create a safe environment for people where they feel comfortable, give direction and establish priorities, break down the tasks so they're much more bite-sized, easy to digest, people are more inclined to accept them. We need to encourage and manage conflict as well, which is often what we're not terribly good at in the business. And we need to have that emotional capacity in ourselves to allow uncertainty, frustration. People are going to be upset. If we go back to our workshops, we all discuss the emotional cycle of change. We know where we've been on it ourselves, being future leaders, and it can be actually to actually step back and think, okay, this is what's going on here. This is completely normal. And have that capacity within ourselves to be able to deal with that. But what we also need to do is we need to see, hear and recognise people, communicate with confidence through our body language and speech, and show that we are in control and there is actually nothing to be scared of in the first place. So our next key principle is maintain discipline and attention. We're encouraged on a daily basis to embrace diversity and recognise the value in different people's beliefs. However, differences can lead to conflict, particularly in times of change when a knee-jerk reaction to change is often no or I don't want to do this, and people are slightly more stressed out in delivering this change that's going on. It's easier in the short term to just simply ignore it and not deal with the conflict, which is something which we are particularly in Tesco, just dealing with this conflict, embracing it. And distractions can be denial. It's not going on, focusing on the now and the fact that you're too busy to think about it right now because you're actually too embedded in the change going on in the first place, rather than simply delegating to your team and making disagreements personal attack on yourselves when simply they are not. They're just people's frustration at the exercise what you're going through. So maintaining discipline actually means recognizing that people are a resource, embracing debate and conflict, working together. Collaboration is part of our leadership matrix. This is a really, really key principle in maintaining discipline and maintaining the focus on the actual end goal, the challenge itself, and actually delivering this for the greater good. The next point we've already actually briefly looked at is to give work back to our colleagues, or as this slide says, employees, from the actual article itself. The idea here is we're installing collective self-confidence, helping our colleagues know that the actual answer lies within themselves, letting them recognise this fact. Leaders should give people the confidence to accept responsibility and to take risks. We need to let people take risks. However, if something does go wrong, we also need to give them the confidence that we will back them up and stand by the decision-making process as well. It requires empowerment of our colleagues and supporting people, and it will ultimately result in a more knowledgeable workforce with better capabilities. Also increased collaboration, as employees will naturally work together to solve problems they cannot solve usually. Senior team members are also able to get on the balcony as their tasks are essentially being done by our colleagues within the organisation because we've actually delegated towards them. And a more innovative business that identifies and responds quickly to adaptive challenges and ultimately responds quickly to change as well. This brings us on to our final point, you'll be happy to know, which is all about protecting leadership voices from below, people who are below us in the organisation, in the hierarchy. Leaders need to encourage and protect those that raise questions about how the company operates. As leaders, we also need to consider what is the root cause of what this person is saying. Going back to what I said before, it's not a personal attack, it is the reason, recognising the reason why they're actually saying what they're saying. Consulting the people within the organisation that have the expertise in any proposed change before making important decisions will also facilitate the change trying to be made. It'll get buy-in. It's a much more positive way of doing things. We then need to make what is best for the company, rather than simply just doing what is best for our little section or our department or whatever it may be. We need to look at the bigger picture from the balcony, so to speak. So having this open mind and looking from the balcony will ultimately result in an increase in potential future leaders, which obviously we all have an vested interest in. Better informed decision makers, which would lead to better decisions actually being made in the first place. Improved collaboration between all layers of the company, and we do often see a divide between stores, distribution, stores, head office distribution. We all are actually one company and one team, and this will help facilitate that. And increased innovation within the organisation. So on to our final slide now. In summary, leadership can start with a question. This style of leadership encourages continuous learning by encouraging debate, confrontation and collaboration. The benefits of which are that it involves others, gets their buy-in and helps shape the change which we're actually trying to achieve in the business, and makes people feel listened to and valued. What it can also do is it can take the pressure off the person leading the change, as they don't need to be a technical expert in that area or know all the answers, but just to be confident and comfortable in themselves and their team. Therefore, in this changed environment what we're currently in the business, it will actually facilitate the sustainability of maintaining this change and this momentum in achieving what we need to achieve. However, there is a downside. This process, this kind of way of thinking does take a lot of time, and as we all know, in Tesco, time is something of a luxury. We never ever have enough time. sometimes we just simply need to actually get on and do it. So what we can actually take from that is it's a valuable lesson to learn that as a leader, it is our responsibility to inspire others and lead the change, and not to lose focus on the whole business. Taking time out daily to reflect from the balcony, which we discussed in the first slide, will help identify issues arising which could actually potentially sabotage the change we're trying to make. So in comparison to other retailers, Tesco is actually very good at giving work back to the employees. We do give a sense of responsibility to our customer assistants, team leaders, all the way throughout the hierarchy, and we demand a lot from our colleagues at all levels. It's created a very productive and capable workforce. However, the level of bureaucracy within Tesco often kind of stifles the creativity amongst colleagues, and we do have kind of a set agenda, set routines or whatever that we do actually kind of stick, and doesn't really create that environment where creativity may flourish and where people may actually challenge the norm. And finally, we are working in an organisation that is very good at protecting leadership from below. However, the experience in each store varies depending on the culture of that individual store. They're almost like mini businesses in themselves. We've identified this type of leadership that in our organisation there are areas where it would benefit from this style, and we all know this company is infinitely diverse, it's forever changing, it's completely dynamic. So the 6 key principles which we've discussed, even if we take 1 or 2 of them and incorporate them into our management style, it can only be a good thing. Thanks very much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed our presentation.